The largest desert in the world, covering a third of the entire African continent. One of the hottest, driest places on Earth. The Sahara. According to legend, an endless, empty ocean of sand. Yet there is life here. Unique creatures adapted to a harsh land. Even people. The present is unstable. The future, uncertain. What is the secret to surviving the Sahara? Just 4,000 years ago, the Sahara was very different to how it is today. A thriving grassland, teeming with wildlife more typical of the Serengeti. Then, everything changed with astonishing speed. Massive shifts in its molten core caused a tilt in the Earth's axis and rapid climate change. In 300 years, soaring temperatures and a drop in rainfall transformed the lush savanna into an arid, hostile desert. And in recent years, it has only got hotter. Today, the Sahara stretches 8 million square kilometers across 11 North African countries. An area the size of Europe. It may appear an empty, endless wasteland, but appearances can be deceptive. The Sahara's oldest human inhabitants. No one is sure where their ancestors came from, but today, Berbers are an exotic mix of nomads, traders, and invaders. They live mainly along the desert's northern edge, but many still undertake journeys into the very heart of the desert, following ancient routes, ignoring international borders. The Berbers have survived thousands of years in a land where most people would struggle to make it through the day. The secret to their success is simple. Camels. It wasn't until the 3rd century AD that the Berbers introduced these strange creatures to Africa's great desert. Camels make light of terrain that a 4x4 would find impossible. At a stroke, these masters of endurance revolutionized life in the Sahara. These were ships that could take their masters on voyages to far-flung places. Suddenly, the nomads could trade right across the desert. The Sahara was no longer a barrier. It was a massive opportunity. But any journey into the desert is still a daunting prospect. On the southern edge of the Sahara, in the wilds of Mali, a relic population of the largest land animals on the planet, desert elephants. They too are on an epic journey, an eternal search for food and water. They're thirsty. An elderly female, the matriarch, leads the way. She must find water within the next few days, or members of her family may die. For Mali's elephants, every day is a battle to survive. The desert is not their natural home. These are savanna animals left high and dry by the shifting climate. The matriarch's experience is crucial. She knows that the only option is to press on. But the elephants have already walked 50 kilometers in the past 24 hours. It's hard enough for the adults. For the calves, it's proving tough to keep up. And their destination is still some distance away. It's April, midway through the dry season, with daily temperatures soaring to over 50 Celsius. It hasn't rained in weeks. All across the elephants' range, watering holes are drying up fast. This one, Lake Banzena, is shrinking too. But it's the largest body of water in the region and should last until the rains return. The elephants come back here every year. But last year, Banzena let them down. Mali experienced its worst drought in 26 years. By June, the lake was reduced to a few muddy pools. Several younger elephants died. A repeat could send this already struggling population over the edge. The elephants are still a month's walk away from the lake. The matriarch can have no idea what lies ahead. All she can do is encourage her herd on. There's no turning back. On the southern edge of the Sahara, Mahmoud, a Fulani tribesman, lives in the shadow of the desert elephants. Like the Berbers, the Fulani are nomadic, but their movements are guided by the needs of their cattle. Mahmoud must find the best grazing and the most reliable sources of water. But while his life mirrors those of the elephants, his needs mean that he and his tribe are in direct competition with the giant pachyderms. The size of his herd determines Mahmoud's wealth and status. Human and cattle numbers have risen dramatically in recent years. So as the dry season reaches its peak, the struggle for dwindling resources is getting desperate. Elephants and man are on a collision course. But man and beast aren't always in conflict. As well as camels, nomads harness the skills of hunting animals, including birds of prey. Hieroglyphs on ancient Egyptian tombs reveal they've been used for thousands of years. Together with Salukis, the oldest breed of dog in the world. Berbers still work with Salukis to hunt food in the desert. With animals on their side, humans have managed to permanently settle the Sahara's edge. As a result, wildlife has been forced further and further into the heart of the desert. That anything can survive there would seem a miracle. Early explorers fueled our imaginations with stories of empty expanses of sand. But the Sahara is hardly barren, and sand dunes cover just 15% of its surface. The Great Desert is a patchwork of dunes, mountains, gravel pans, and bare rock. Each of these habitats has its own challenges. Each supports its own specialized animals. On the Sahara's edge, arid savanna. There is food and water here, but not all year round. This was once a home to big cats and their prey. Intensive hunting and competition with livestock has led to their near extermination. But some could be on their way back from the brink of extinction. Such as the scimitar-horned oryx. Like the desert elephants, they travel huge distances in search of fresh grazing. Just 100 years ago, they ranged 8 million square kilometers across the whole of the Sahara, regularly migrating over 1,000 kilometers in their quest for food. But a rampant desire for their meter-long horns led to their rapid demise. By the end of the 20th century, it seemed the scimitar-horned oryx might be extinct in the wild. But in Tunisia, a handful of heavily protected herds are making a comeback. The oryx live in mixed groups, led by a dominant male. He constantly monitors the state of his females. By drawing their scent across special organs in the roof of his mouth, he can tell whether they're ready to mate. When a younger male gets wind of an opportunity, underlying tensions quickly come to the surface. With so few females around, the cost of failure is high. The oryx have it relatively easy. Deeper into the desert, conditions become more severe. Yet somehow, life finds a way. A fennec fox. It spent the day in a cool burrow deep underground. Just 20 centimeters tall, it's the smallest dog in the world. The fennec's outsized ears help it to lose heat, but their main purpose is to locate prey, especially when it's hidden beneath the sand. Insects and rodents make up most of its diet. But a scorpion is a deadly temptation. The poison in its sting is enough to kill a man, let alone a tiny fox. But the fennec is quick to disable it. On a clear night in the heart of the desert, the temperature can drop to 13 Celsius. But once day breaks, it quickly rises by up to 40 degrees. Cold-blooded reptiles soak up the dawn rays to recharge their solar-powered batteries. The sandfish, actually a type of lizard, is a real Saharan speciality. Its smooth skin, spade-like hands and wedge-shaped snout hint that it has a unique trick at its disposal. It's a prime target for one of the sand sea's most feared predators, the horned viper, sometimes called the sidewinder. A venomous snake with a taste for rodents and fish-like lizards. While most creatures struggle to travel through the desert, the viper has made it into an art form. The sandfish is still too cold to flee, and it knows the viper's eyes will pick up even the smallest movement. But the viper's tongue can taste even a stationary lizard's smell. As soon as it's charged itself up, the sandfish makes a break for it and reveals its hand. It literally swims through the sand to safety. As the day's temperature soars, it creates turbulence. At ground level, it generates a sandstorm. Down here, the barrage of sand grains can cause serious damage. For the horned adder, retreat is the only option. At least a hard outer shell provides a degree of protection. But anything caught out for long is in real danger. By the time the storm is over, the sand has heated to well over 50 degrees Celsius. Tunisian desert ants are seemingly heat-resistant. Even in the scorching sunshine, they busy themselves fixing their sand-blasted burrow. Job done, they head out in search of food. Anything caught out in the searing heat. The ants forage up to 100 meters from their nest, finding a variety of prey. The temperature at ground level is now 70 degrees Celsius. Even a desert ant is in danger of burning up. Having secured its victim, this one must get home as quickly as possible. Incredibly, it turns directly to its nest and unwaveringly heads towards it in a straight line. Somehow, the ant's tiny brain has worked like a sophisticated computer, counting the number of steps it's taken in every direction in relation to the angle of the sun. It's then worked out the most direct route home. A truly remarkable feat. But getting lost would have been fatal. The fat-tailed scorpion hasn't fared so well. The desert ants are quick to close in. They know to be wary of this formidable opponent, but they have the sun on their side. Like miniature hyenas, they overwhelm their prey. It's death by 1,000 cuts. The ants work together to dismember their mighty foe. Then, using their extraordinary navigation skills, they ferry the scorpion limb by limb all the way home. The bulk of the body is almost too much, and the wind is returning. The Sahara's sand dunes are constantly on the move. When a weather front arrives, a major sandstorm is often not far behind. Its leading edge can be well over 1 kilometer high. It may take hours or even days to pass. There's no choice but to wait it out. The Sahara's sandstorms are the largest in the world and can be seen from space. They have far-reaching impact. Saharan dust blows as far as the United States and is thought to trigger asthma on the far side of the world. Its shadow lowers the temperature of the Atlantic Ocean, reducing the likelihood of hurricanes in the Caribbean. And over 13 million tons of Saharan sand blows into the Amazon every year, making it the rainforest's biggest fertilizer. For the desert nomads, the threat is never far away. The Berber caravan has reached the heart of the Sand Sea. There's no shade here. In days gone by, camel trains like this could be 5,000 strong. They may be much diminished, but these modern-day caravans still ply the same routes. How do they find their way? The tracks of previous travelers have long since blown away. The contours of the land mean they can't even walk in straight lines. Sand dunes are unreliable signposts. They themselves migrate from week to week. And then, the desert plays tricks. A distant oasis, trees, even a village. No, a mirage, the traveler's curse. This is no hallucination. The human brain merely tries to make sense of a confusing optical phenomenon. It's caused by the layer of hot air just above the ground. Less dense than the cold air above it, it bends the image coming towards our eye, effectively placing the sky on the ground. The brain decides this cannot be and interprets it as water reflecting the sky. The Berbers know not to be taken in. There is water in the desert, but not here. The caravan has an experienced leader. Like the desert ants, he uses the sun as a rough guide, but he relies on the meager details of the desert, a lone bush, or a distant mountain to keep to his route. Before nightfall, the leader brings his charges to a traditional staging post in the lee of a vast dune. The camels have done their owners proud. They may be foul-tempered, but they're supremely adapted to desert life. Their sealable nostrils, long eyelashes, and hairy ear guards all keep out the dusty sand. Their single hump stores fat that can be converted to water. Their thick coats and large size mean they heat up slowly during the day and cool down just as gradually at night. On the far side of the Sahara, the Mali elephants have found trouble. Cattle and elephants are after the same thing, not just water, but food. At this time of year, there's little grass left to eat, so elephants and cattle home in on the same patches of scrub. The elephants easily intimidate their smaller rivals. But the cattle have herders on their side. Across Africa, this kind of conflict has led to elephants' extermination. Mali's elephants are the northernmost population left. But the herder Mahmoud is surprisingly relaxed. Walking amongst his herd, he feels safe. He even calls to the elephants to calm them down. Unusually, the Fulani see these giants as symbols of natural well-being and welcome their arrival. And Mahmoud knows that where there are elephants, water can't be far away. There's actually plenty of water in the Sahara, even in the depths of the desert. You just have to know where to find it. Vast underground aquifers, the size of America's Great Lakes, lie beneath the surface. Most were filled thousands of years ago, when the Sahara's climate was similar to that of East Africa today. The key is to know where to access this vital resource, known as fossil water. The answer? An oasis. The precious pools of the Enedi Massif, part of the Nubian Aquifer, a vast reservoir. A crucial watering point for the huge numbers of camels crossing the desert. After days or even weeks without water, the camels have lost up to 40% of their body weight. But they're champion drinkers. They can down 200 pints in just 10 minutes. They soon recover their condition, and within a couple of days, they'll be ready to resume their journey to their ultimate destinations. Djenné, in central Mali, is one of the most important markets in all of the Sahara. Once a week, stalls are erected in front of the town's imposing mosque, the largest mud-built building in the world. The mosque's high walls provide the perfect catwalk for a well-turned-out male agama. Far above the mayhem of the market, he's hoping to impress a more dully dressed female. By strutting his flamboyant fashion, he's aiming to attract her attention. But he has competition from a younger rival. If clashing colors don't scare off the inexperienced suitor, Perhaps press-ups will do the trick. In all the excitement, the female seems to have been forgotten. She's none too impressed. Food and livestock are arriving from across the region. Valuable commodities, such as cotton and precious metals, from even further afield. Djenné is at the hub of numerous trade routes, stretching north-south from Morocco and Egypt to Ghana's Atlantic coast. To trade east and west, merchants use the Niger, along with the Nile, one of the Sahara's two surviving rivers. In the port of Mopti, little has changed for centuries. The boats, known as pirogues, have kept the same design for 800 years. And they still ply the same routes, taking valuable cargo to Timbuktu and beyond. Mopti and Djenné provide vital sustenance to people living in the desert. But it's the value of commercial trade that drives the Sahara's great migrations. It's salt and gold that send nomads into the desert's depths. By early May, Lake Banzena has shrunk considerably. Now, at the peak of the dry season, it's just 30 centimeters deep. But it's the only lake in the entire region with anything left to drink. Sand grouse arrive from as far as 80 kilometers away. They drink their fill, soaking their breast feathers so they can carry the precious liquid back to thirsty chicks in far-flung nests. Mahmoud, too, is homing in on the lake. But his herd won't be the first to arrive. Nomads have gathered from across southern Mali and beyond. Elegantly horned Baroji cattle have been driven in from neighboring Niger, a country gripped by years of drought. Tens of thousands of thirsty animals are lapping up the filthy water. Even people have no other choice. And the lake's level is dropping day by day. More and more nomads come to Lake Banzena every year. Their herds are outcompeting the native animals for food and water. Few wild mammals survive in Mali today. But one is holding on. The desert elephant. The herd has joined up with other elephants converging on Lake Banzena. Over 100 animals, a third of all the elephants left in Mali. Emboldened by their growing ranks and driven on by immense thirst, the elephants head straight for the lake. It's almost a year since the old female has brought her herd here. In that time, they've traveled over 3,000 kilometers, the longest migration of any elephant in Africa. In an area the size of Florida, the matriarch has managed to find the one source of water her family so desperately needs. The adults rapidly quench their thirst. They'll swallow up to 200 liters and store even more in a reserve pouch in their throats. Despite the danger they bring, Mahmoud is relieved to see the elephants. Their continuing existence means there is still grazing in the region. But seeing so many in one place is worrying. It means water elsewhere is running out. After last year's drought, the signs are ominous. the Sahara faces an uncertain future. Its sands are on the march. The desert is spreading south, and the dunes are heading for the last stronghold of a tribe who worships the animals that share its home. In central Mali, on the Sahara's southern edge, the Bandiagara escarpment. In its vast cliffs, the deserted houses of an extinct people, the Telem. It's thought they built their homes out of reach of the lions that once roamed the plains hundreds of meters below. No one knows how they scaled these sheer walls. Some believe they must have had wings. At the escarpment's base, crocodiles. A relic of a time when rivers crisscrossed the region. Legend has it that around 500 years ago, crocodile tracks led a band of thirsty fugitives to this rare source of water. These people were the Dogon, and it's thought they were fleeing from slave traders. The Dogon settled by the pool and survive here to this day. They're animists, believing that every animal, plant and rock is inhabited by a spirit. And in this village, they worship the crocodiles that saved their forefathers. All along the 200-kilometer escarpment, symbols attest to the importance of this religion in the Dogon's everyday lives. "500 meters up, on the escarpment's rim, a rare chance for them to showcase their beliefs. 5 years ago, a distinguished village elder died. Within days, a series of rituals chased his spirit from his dead body. Now, his family is preparing for a ceremony that will send the spirit from the village to its final resting place. It's a masquerade known as the Dharma. Such an event hasn't happened here in years. It's drawn plenty of attention. The masks represent life forms ranging from lizards to antelope, water birds to giant snakes. The dancers aim to summon their ancestors. They must create a bridge to the supernatural world. Without the Dharma, the dead cannot cross over into peace. It will be 3 days before the Dharma is over, and the Dogon community can return to the rhythm of everyday life. Protected by the escarpment's formidable cliffs, the Dogon have defended their culture and religion for hundreds of years. But in the Toguna, the equivalent of the village hall, elders gather to discuss the new foe that threatens to overwhelm them. Already, the animals represented by their elaborate masks seem to have largely disappeared. Now, a giant dune, rolling inexorably south, seems certain to drown the Dogon villages and destroy their way of life. Already, the Dogon's cattle and sheep are running out of food. The Sahara is coming. In the Sahara, change is nothing new. Over millions of years, it's been through many cycles, most dramatic and fast. Desert wildlife has always found a way to adapt. But now it seems change is coming faster than ever before. Overgrazing, woodcutting and drought mean the desert is spreading. Sandstorms have increased tenfold in the last 60 years. And animals that have thrived for millions of years have been reduced to a handful of survivors in less than a century. But global warming is having unexpected consequences. Hot air carries more moisture, bringing rain and hope to some areas, turning desert to savanna once more. The Sahara of legend is a sea without water, a land of terrible thirst. Yet its extreme conditions protect it from all but the hardiest intruders, making it a haven for those that have learned to live here.